This video contains discussions of child abuse. Viewer discretion advised.
I don't know what else I can say about this terrible event, except for please, hug your children.
On the night of November 7th, 2025, in a quiet mobile home park in Escambia County, Florida, neighbors were jolted awake by something no one should ever have to witness. Flames. Massive, consuming flames, tearing through a single-wide trailer on Flaxman Street. Ron Capshaw, who lived next door, woke up around 3 a.m. to find his power out. When he looked out his window, he saw police cars with spotlights illuminating the charred remains of his neighbor's home. "I asked the police what happened," he would later recall, and he said, "We really can't tell you about that right now." But what they couldn't tell him that night would soon become every parent's worst nightmare. Inside that burning trailer, firefighters would discover the bodies of two children, 9-year-old Vayden Orum and 7-year-old Rayden Smith. Two innocent kids who thought they were having a normal sleepover. Two children whose lives were stolen by someone they trusted, because this wasn't an accident. This wasn't a tragic fire that got out of control. This was murder. Premeditated, calculated murder. Followed by arson to cover up unspeakable crimes. And the person responsible? A 27-year-old man named John Henry Walston Jr., a neighbor, a family friend, someone who had been trusted with these children's lives. This is the story of the Sleepover betrayal. Before we continue, I need to give you a content warning. This case involves the sexual assault and murder of children. It's disturbing, it's enraging, and it's heartbreaking. But Vayden and Rayden deserve to have their story told. They deserve justice. And we, as a community, need to understand how predators operate, how they hide in plain sight, gain our trust, and exploit the most vulnerable among us. So if you're able to continue watching, I appreciate you being here. Let's seek justice together. At 12:56 a.m. on November 7th, 2025, Escambia County Fire Rescue received an emergency call about a fully involved structure fire at the Grand Oak Mobile Home Park on Flaxman Street. When firefighters arrived on scene, they encountered heavy flames and thick black smoke completely engulfing a single-wide mobile home. The heat was so intense, the fire so aggressive, that it took specialized efforts just to make entry into the residence. And there were reports, horrifying reports, that two children were trapped inside. Firefighters worked frantically. They knew every second counted. By 1:17 a.m., just 21 minutes after their arrival, they had managed to extinguish the blaze. But when they entered that trailer, they found a scene that would haunt them forever. Two small bodies, a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and their family dog, all deceased. But here's what makes this even more devastating. While firefighters were battling that inferno, the children's mother, their mother, was trying to run into the burning trailer. Neighbor John Wenzel witnessed her desperate attempt. He would later tell reporters, "She went into the trailer trying to get them. That's a mother's love. I mean, the trailer was totally involved inside. That's why she's in the mobile burn center." Can you even imagine, knowing your babies are inside, feeling that fire and running toward it anyway because your maternal instinct overrides every survival mechanism in your body? She suffered severe burns trying to save her children. She was transported to a mobile burn center where she would face a long, agonizing recovery. Two other adults and one pediatric patient were also treated on scene for fire-related injuries before being transported to area hospitals. The mobile home was declared a total loss. At first, investigators thought they were dealing with a horrible accident, a fire that killed two innocent children. They had no idea what they were actually dealing with, because within hours, the Escambia County Sheriff's Office would make a discovery that would transform this from a fire investigation into one of the most disturbing murder cases the community had ever seen. Before we continue with Vayden and Rayden's story, I need to ask for your help in fulfilling this channel's mission. If this case matters to you, if you believe these children deserve justice and that their story can protect others, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Every like pushes this video to more people. Every subscription strengthens our ability to investigate cases like this. And every share could reach a parent, a teacher, or a community member who needs to recognize these warning signs. In the comments below, Please write your city and what time you're watching this. This data helps me understand when to publish investigations like this so they reach the maximum number of people and potentially save lives. This channel exists for one reason: to seek justice for the most vulnerable. We tell the stories of children who needed protection but didn't receive it. These aren't just true crime stories, they're critical lessons in recognizing dangerous situations, understanding how predators operate, and protecting the innocent. If you want to directly support this mission, you can click the Super Thanks button below this video, or join our membership community. Your support allows me to dedicate the time and resources needed to thoroughly investigate these cases and tell these stories with the dignity they deserve. I also want to tell you about a new investigative project I've just completed. Many of you have asked about the psychological origins of violent offenders. What creates a killer? What turns a human being into a monster? I've just released a comprehensive investigative book, How Ed Gein's Mother Created a Monster, What Netflix Didn't Show You. This isn't the sensationalized version you've seen in documentaries. This is a deep examination of the religious trauma, psychological abuse, and systematic destruction of a human psyche that created one of America's most notorious killers. This book is valued at $24.99, but it's not for sale. Instead, it's available as a supporter contribution, meaning you can download your copy by supporting the channel with whatever amount feels right to you. Whether that's $5, $25, or more, every contribution directly funds investigations like the one you're watching right now. Click the link in the description below to download your copy and continue supporting our mission to seek justice for the most vulnerable. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about Vayden and Rayden. And thank you for helping us reach more people with these critical stories. Now, let's continue with who these children were and the monster who betrayed their trust. Before we go any further into the darkness of this case, we need to talk about who Vayden and Rayden really were, because they weren't just statistics. They weren't just victims in a true crime case. They were children. Real children with personalities, with laughter, with dreams. Vayden Orum was 9 years old. Rayden Smith was 7. Neighbors on Flaxman Street described them as kids who were always outside playing. They were sweet kids, one neighbor recalled. The kind of children who brought life and energy to their community. Ron Capshaw, the next-door neighbor, spoke about their family with genuine affection. It hurts me because they were just the least deserving for something like this to happen. It was just a really sweet, sweet family. Very giving. These weren't troubled kids from a broken home. They were loved. They were cared for. They lived in a mobile home park where neighbors looked out for each other, where families knew each other, where children played together in the streets. Their father, Tyler Smith, who was Rayden's biological father and Vayden's stepfather, would later speak to reporters with a grief so profound, it's painful to even watch. These boys should be alive right now. They should be in school, playing video games, riding bikes, growing up. Instead, we're telling their story because of what happened on November 7th. Because someone they trusted, someone their parents trusted, betrayed them in the most horrific way imaginable. His name is John Henry Walston Jr., 27 years old, and if you passed him on the street, you would never suspect what he was capable of. That's the truly terrifying thing about this case. John Walston wasn't some stranger who broke into a home. He wasn't some obvious threat that the community was wary of. No, he was a neighbor, a family friend, someone who had lived in the Grand Oak Mobile Home Park for 5 years. Tyler Smith told reporters that he'd known Walston for a couple of years, that Walston's trailer was where Vayden and Rayden were staying that night. Think about that. These parents trusted this man enough to let their children spend the night at his home. According to neighbors, Walston lived in the trailer with his own family, a wife and 2 children of his own. He had been living with families in the park for years. And here's what makes this even more chilling. Other neighbors say Walston was frequently around children in the neighborhood. Kids played at his trailer. He was part of the fabric of the community. Neighbor Rebecca Easter summed it up perfectly. Everyone trusted him. Another neighbor who asked not to be identified told reporters, "This man's been in this trailer park for 5 years. He lived with a family, not his family, but a family and their 2 children for 2 years. Rebecca Easter added, "He just kind of seeped in. He didn't speak a lot." Seeped in. That's exactly how predators work. They don't announce themselves. They integrate slowly. They become familiar, comfortable, trusted. They position themselves around vulnerable targets and they wait for opportunities. And on the night of November 7th, John Walston apparently decided his opportunity had come. Vayden and Rayden were staying at his trailer, likely having a sleepover with Walston's own children. It should have been a fun, normal night. It became their last. On November 8th, Escambia County Sheriff Chip Simmons released a video statement that would send shockwaves through the community. The children weren't killed by the fire. Let me say that again. Vayden and Rayden were not killed by the fire. According to Sheriff Simmons, these children were not killed because of the fire. Walston assaulted one, then killed them both before saving himself. The investigation revealed that John Walston had sexually assaulted one of the children. Then he murdered both of them. And then, in a calculated attempt to cover up his crimes, he set his own trailer on fire with the children's bodies inside. While the fire raged, while neighbors gathered in horror, while the children's mother tried to run into the flames to save her babies, John Walston escaped. He saved himself and let those children burn. He was arrested and booked into the Escambia County Jail at approximately 1:30 a.m., just hours after the fire. The charges against him are staggering. 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder. 1 count of sexual assault on a child under the age of 12. 1 count of arson. The cause of death for Vayden and Rayden has not been publicly released by the sheriff's office. Whether they were strangled, stabbed, or killed by some other means, we don't yet know. What we do know is that this was premeditated, this was intentional, this was evil in its purest form. The revelation that this was murder, not an accident, devastated the Flaxman Street community. These were people who had lived alongside John Walston for years. They'd waved to him, made small talk, trusted him. Rebecca Easter, one of the neighbors, captured the collective horror when she said, "You can never detect this level of evil. That's not feasible in the minds of normal people." And she's right. Normal people don't wake up every day wondering if their neighbor is a child predator. We don't scrutinize every interaction, looking for signs of malevolence. We trust. We give people the benefit of the doubt. We believe that most people are good, and predators exploit that trust. They're not wearing signs. They're not obvious monsters. They're people, neighbors, coaches, teachers, family, friends. That's what makes this so terrifying. That's what keeps parents up at night. Because if John Walston could fool an entire community for 5 years, who else is hiding in plain sight? Ron Capshaw, the next-door neighbor, spoke about the family with such genuine warmth. It was just a really sweet, sweet family. Very giving. They would even give me rides when I was out of a car. These were good people, kind people, and their children paid the ultimate price for trusting the wrong person. Tyler Smith's interview with Ware News is one of the most heartbreaking pieces of footage in this case. This is a man who lost his son and stepson in the most horrific way imaginable. A man who trusted someone with his children's lives only to have that trust shattered forever. When asked about what happened, Tyler Smith could barely contain his anguish. How can you expect any human being to do this? It's a question with no answer. Because there is no rational explanation for what John Walston did. There's no justification, no excuse, no way to make it make sense. And then Tyler Smith directed his words straight at the man who killed his children. "John, I hope they give you hell in prison because you better be glad they found you before I did." Raw, unfiltered, the grief of a father who would have dispensed his own justice if given the chance. Tyler Smith also mentioned that his children's mother, the woman who ran into that burning trailer, was fighting for her life in the burn center. She's not only dealing with the physical agony of severe burns, but the psychological trauma of losing both her children. I cannot even begin to imagine that level of pain. Sheriff Chip Simmons' statement to the public was simple but profound. I don't know what else I can say about this terrible event except for please hug your children. And I think that's where we need to pause and have an important conversation, because while we can't live in paranoia, we do need to understand how predators operate. Child sexual abuse is horrifyingly common. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 13 boys experience childhood sexual abuse in the United States. And here's the critical statistic. 90% of child sexual abuse is committed by someone the child knows and trusts. It's not the stranger in the van. It's the coach, the youth pastor, the family friend, the neighbor. Predators groom not just children, but entire families and communities. They build trust over time. They position themselves as helpful, kind, trustworthy individuals. And then, when the opportunity arises, they strike. So what can parents do? First, have open, age-appropriate conversations with your children about body autonomy and safe touch. Kids need to know that no one, not even trusted adults, has the right to touch them inappropriately. Second, trust your instincts. If something feels off about someone's behavior around your children, listen to that feeling. You don't need concrete proof to set boundaries. Third, never assume someone is safe just because they're known to you. Background checks, references, and gradual trust building are essential. And fourth, and this is crucial, create an environment where your children feel safe telling you anything. No secrets, no shame, no fear of getting in trouble for reporting uncomfortable situations. Organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and Darkness to Light offer excellent resources for parents on these topics, because we can't prevent every tragedy, but we can educate ourselves. We can be vigilant. We can protect the most vulnerable. John Henry Walston Jr. is currently being held without bond in the Escambia County Jail. According to reports, he was scheduled for a court appearance on November 13th. The charges against him carry severe penalties. In Florida, first-degree murder can result in either life imprisonment without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. Given that there are 2 counts of premeditated murder, plus the sexual assault of a child, plus arson, if convicted, John Walston will likely never see freedom again, and many would argue that even that isn't justice enough. The legal process will be long. There will be preliminary hearings, potentially a trial, and countless procedural steps. But one thing is certain, the evidence against him appears to be substantial. He was arrested just hours after the fire. The investigation quickly determined the children were murdered before the fire was set. Tyler Smith and his family will have to endure watching this play out in court. They'll have to hear the details of what happened to Vayden and Rayden. They'll have to face the man who killed their children. And through it all, that mother, burned and traumatized, will have to find a way to survive the unsurvivable. This case is a stark reminder that evil doesn't always look like what we expect. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't wear a mask or hide in the shadows. Sometimes it lives next door. It smiles at you. It gains your trust. And that's what makes protecting our children so incredibly difficult and so incredibly important. The reality is that child predators rely on our complacency. They rely on us thinking, not in my neighborhood, not with someone I know. But John Walston lived in that neighborhood for 5 years. People did know him, and he still did the unthinkable. So we have to be smarter, more aware, more willing to have uncomfortable conversations and set firm boundaries. We have to believe children when they tell us something is wrong. We have to watch for warning signs. We have to prioritize their safety over social niceties, because in the end, the only thing that matters is keeping kids safe. Vayden and Rayden should still be here. They should be growing up, celebrating birthdays, making memories. Their deaths were preventable. Not necessarily predictable, but preventable. And while we can't bring them back, we can honor them by learning from this tragedy. As we close out this video, I want us to remember something important. Vayden Orum and Rayden Smith were more than victims of a horrific crime. They were children who laughed, who played, who brought joy to their family and community. They were sweet kids who were always out playing, as their neighbors remembered. They were sons who were deeply loved by their father and mother. Their legacy shouldn't be defined by how they died. It should be defined by how they lived. With innocence, with joy, with the boundless potential that every child deserves to fulfill. To Tyler Smith, to their mother recovering in the burn center, to their extended family and friends, I am so sorry. There are no words adequate for your loss. But please know that Vayden and Rayden's story is being told with dignity and with a demand for justice. They mattered, they matter, and they will be remembered. This channel exists to seek justice for the most vulnerable, and no one is more vulnerable than children. Vayden and Rayden trusted the wrong person, not because they did anything wrong, but because they were children who deserved to trust the adults in their lives. John Henry Walston Jr. shattered that trust in the most horrific way imaginable, and now he will face justice. My hope, and I know it's the hope of everyone watching, is that he spends the rest of his life behind bars, with every day serving as a reminder of the innocent lives he destroyed. So tonight, take Sheriff Chip Simmons' advice. Hug your children, tell them you love them, and never, ever take their safety for granted. If this video impacted you, please leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Like and subscribe to support the channel and help us reach more people with these important stories. I've included links in the description to resources for parents concerned about child safety, including the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and Darkness to Light. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about Vayden and Rayden. And as always, let's continue seeking justice for the most vulnerable. Watch the next video displaying on your screen.